Freedom Planet is a game about Sonic OCs that have to go fight a tyrant by platforming through many different stages. But let's see how these OCs can do without jumping. But what do we classify as a jump? Anything that uses the A button to gain vertical height will count as a jump. So a jump counts as a jump, and I'm very upset that I have to say this, otherwise I will constantly get asked if a jump counts as a jump. Yes, it's a jump. Aerial Dragon Cyclone, as that's pretty much just a double jump with a hitbox, but a grounded version is allowed. Swimming up with the A button is banned, however up on the D-pad is allowed. Things we can do with the jump button consist of dropping off these switches, as down plus jump will not cause you to gain any height and instead drop off of them. Also, I will be doing this on hard, because why not? With that cleared up, let's get into the run. Dragon Valley is the first stage in the game and as such doesn't have much in the way of challenge. This will help you adjust to your new way of life of no jumping. Now as a platformer, they're going to expect you to jump, so what options do we have to move upwards? However, we have two options for getting up on them. We have access to Rising Slash, which would be our main platforming tool as it gives us about as much height as a jump and can dish out damage to enemies, but at the drawback of being quite slow at startup. This could be me, but it also feels like you don't have as much horizontal speed whenever you use Rising Slash over jump. Our other option for vertical movement is our Dragon Boost. We can angle it in 6 directions: left, right, up, right, down left, and down right. While it isn't used as much for platforming like Rising Slash is, it is still very useful. In combat it shines as it can hit enemies multiple times during its wind-up animation and during the boost to allow massive damage to be dealt when used right. It also has invulnerability during most of the attacks, so it can be a good defensive tool as well. Now let's actually talk about the level. Getting through the first part of the level is pretty straightforward. Run through, use Rising Slash when you jump, and Dragon Boost past the door with the button and everything is good. The Snake Hunter mini-boss doesn't change too much when it comes to jumpless, just don't forget to use Rising Slash in place of a jump when you should. Now for the last part of the stage, all we have to do is fight against the rejected Steelix, but as before, he's not too much harder without jumping. Relic Maze is up next and it isn't too bad of a stage. Rising Slash can be used to get past the platforms that you usually use to jump, and well-timed Rising Slashes can be used to get over the fireballs. The next part of the stage requires you to grab onto a switch in order to open up pathways to continue on, and the switches can only be left by using the jump button. However, you can drop off the switches by pressing down before pressing the jump button, and I personally do not think that this counts towards a jump. Afterwards, you can move on to the next room, hit some buttons, and fight a mini-boss. Just in case you don't know how to kill this thing in one hit, just take the TM up there and teach it to it. Once it's learned TM 68, feel free to continue on to the rest of the stage. In front of the train and I blow it up twice. Part 2 of Relic Maze is more or less the same up until the very end. Now we have 2 rooms we have to go through before we can continue on to the boss. One of these rooms really shows what the meaning of Bonehead means. The other one I sat down like an idiot, was worried that you'd have to jump to get out of it. Luckily you don't. Oh, and running away from the spikes is still easy without jumping. We arrived just in time to see someone who seems so goddamn cool steal a giant keystone, and now we have to fight what I can only assume is a Scyther that failed to evolve into Scizor properly. He dies without too much issue, and that finishes up Relic Maze. Up next is Stage 3, Fortune Knight. Nothing really happens in the stage. The most noteworthy thing I did in the stage was avoid as many of the ropes as possible. You can actually avoid almost all of them except for this one right here. I don't think it's possible to avoid that one. It's also possible to avoid the hot air balloon that you'd usually use to fight the Samu. Round 1 with Solid Snake here, and his fight isn't too terrible jumpless. Normally this fight would consist of you jumping over projectiles to hit Snake here. However, we can't do that for obvious reasons. However, even though we can't jump, we can still avoid his attacks using the uneven ground. Anytime Snake Rain here is about to attack, you just move up on any of the uneven ground and avoid his attack that way. Now for the mini-boss. Samu Jack here really isn't much of an issue, just hit him until he dies. And if that doesn't work, just hit him harder. He'll die eventually. Now to finish off Fortune Knight, we have to face off with the Robo Panther boss fight, in what I call a mock battle. Now the difference between a mock battle and a regular fight is the fact that in a mock battle, you're constantly running with shit always being thrown at you. I think you can see how this is a problem as we don't have a jump. The best things that I can recommend for this fight are having your timing for Rising Slash down, get in some pot shots when you're able to, and Dragon Boost wherever you feel uncomfortable dodging. And when he makes it to phase 2, pick a god and pray that you don't get obliterated by missiles. On to stage 5, Sky Battalion. Sky Battalion as a stage is pretty much just 3 mini stages all thrown together with a mini boss at the end. And because these stages are so short, the most difficult thing you'll run into are these fans that you're supposed to Dragon Cyclone over, and this movie platform thing. And getting over those 2 obstacles is trivial, just Dragon Boost over the fans and Rising Slash the annoying platform. In fact, this stage has so few problems that we're already onto the mini bosses. Yes, the stage is that easy. On to the first mini boss, the unholy offspring of Beyblade and Monsuno. This thing is extremely easy to take out. Really, the best strategy for this fight is to just avoid the lasers when it uses it, and Dragon Boost through the spinning attack to deal a little bit of damage. For those of you who want to finish this fight just slightly faster, you can hit it with Rising Slash, but in my opinion it's not really worth it. You can only hit it with one hit of Rising Slash, so it doesn't really do much damage. After defeating that embarrassment, we have Prism Break's older brother here, who isn't too much of a challenge, but is still slightly harder than the last one. The main way of damaging him is by riding his crystal up and hitting him. But since we're playing as Lilac, we can just Dragon Boost up and hit him. You might have some issues hitting him whenever he's down to his last hit, but it should still be possible. And if not, you can just ride the crystal up and hit him. And for the final mini-boss of this stage, I saved the coolest for last. Furry Rick Smith Jr. Don't be intimidated by his coolness. You never actually have to be in combat with him for too long. You can easily just Dragon Boost and get some chip damage in, little by little, until eventually you win. Just make sure at some point you get up on this ledge during the fight. It's very important, I swear. Once you finish throwing all the bosses overboard, be ready to fight Dale and his mechanized Shien. His fight isn't too difficult. The main thing to keep in mind is that he gains more attacks as the fight goes on. I would also highly recommend having your volume on. The first attack he has access to is the reason why I would recommend that you have your volume on. His first attack is a Spirit Bomb-like attack that locks onto your current location when it starts to move. You might also recall how I said Rising Slash is slightly slower than jumping, and this plays a huge part into it. Because Rising Slash is so slow, if the attack is on screen it can be very hard to dodge, but this is why I recommend having your volume on. You can hear when the attack starts to come at you, so you can have him off screen and have more time to prepare whenever you hear the attack coming. With that in mind, you'll easily break off all the gems on his tail, which will show one of his new attacks, where he'll fly off screen and strike 4 times at your elevation, with quite a bit of warning. It isn't too hard to get over, but if you're used to jumping, then you might want to adjust your timing just a little bit. Either that, or you can just jump between platforms, whatever works. Second wave is more or less the same. The only difference is that he now has a whirlwind attack to blow you away. Just run towards the whirlwind and you won't get blown away. Just be ready for the Spirit Bomb attacks, because those haven't changed and he'll still use those. In wave 3 he gets his last attack and the ability to shoot Shotgun Laser Piss. This should always be the first attack he uses at the start of wave 3 and is invincible during it, so don't think that you can just run up and use Dragon Boost to safely get some damage in. And much like a shotgun, the farther away you are, the safer you are, so if you're low on health, feel free to run away to keep yourself safe. Just keep moving around his highly telegraphed attacks, get in damage when you can, and you'll eventually win. See, he's a really easy boss. Just fuck! Like I was saying, quite an easy boss. No deaths at all. No clue what you're talking about. And on to the next stage, Jade Creek. Now before I talk about how this stage almost drove me mad, I want to talk about this weird glitch I found. I don't know what I did, I don't know what I was doing, other than playing the game jumpless, but I managed to get stuck in the air in such a way that it was impossible to continue. It was weird, I couldn't move at all. I couldn't Dragon Boost, I couldn't use a dive kick. I even put the challenge on hold and tried to use Dragon Cyclone. That didn't work. And to make things even weirder, I couldn't find this anywhere. If anyone else has seen this, please tell me, because this is just weird. Anyways, back to the Hey, Stupid here to fix what I said earlier. You can in fact use a Dragon Boost and Dive Kick. However, they don't work as intended, as in they don't move you up or down. As for why I couldn't use Cyclone, that's because I never hit the ground after using Dragon Boost while stuck in the air. Now, if you're like me and really like glitches and you want to mess around and see if you can do something stupid with this, I think the way you get it to trigger is by using the seed and float into a spring. So yeah. Back to the video that took way too long to edit. Challenge. Now this is the first stage that can really hurt you for not being able to jump, as it has a unique mechanic. This stage has dandelions which you can grab onto and float down, and is usually used to get you over gaps for faster progression. The only way off the seeds is by landing on solid ground or jumping off, which we can't do. And there is one part in particular in this stage where we have to use the dandelions to proceed. Now I have to use a Dragon Boost to get up to this spring to continue, but I also have to use a Dragon Boost after bouncing on the spring to continue. At first I thought this would be a problem until I actually used my brain to realize you can hold right while bouncing on the spring to charge up Dragon Boost so you can Dragon Boost where you need to go. So after that embarrassment, you can Dragon Boost to the first dandelion at the peak of your spring bounce to make it over the next part of the level. I also had an embarrassing death that caused me to pick up a card afterwards. This gave me the idea that maybe at some point I should do a jumpless run where I collect all the cards. The mini-boss of this stage is Nira, and she is tough. This could be the fact that I've never been good at fighting her, but still, she is difficult. She always starts the fight off with a shield and will get more throughout the fight after enough damage is dealt. She'll also shoot ice at the ground when getting the shield. Useful information for this fight is the fact that the ice cannot hurt you until it hits the ground, so don't worry about hitting it on the way up. Other than that, just remember that her attacks can ricochet, so don't run into them like an idiot. Trust me, it gets annoying real fast. And now it's time for the boss of the stage. Welcome to one of the worst fights in the game. A 2-phase boss fight, with phase 2 having the boss flying. I don't think I have to explain the issue with that this late into the run. And that's not to mention, if you lose at any point during this fight, you have to redo it all over again, including Phase 1. Phase 1 is pretty easy, actually, once you've done it about 80 times or so. So here's how you can do it without too much issue. Run up to the wall on the right. Phenomenon will always dash to where you are before attacking. Take advantage of this by attacking when he gets close. Now take advantage of his horrible ability to adapt and hit him with the wind-up of your Dragon Boosts. When you angle Dragon Boost perpendicularly to a wall, you bounce off and cancel the boost early and gain enough energy to rinse and repeat. Welcome to hell. In Phase 2, Jakuza right here realizes that flying over a grounded enemy is a better strategy than just running into them over and over again. Anyways, most of his attacks are fine. An Electro Ball that sweeps the ground with ample time to rising slash over. Missiles because of course he does. But they aren't too bad as their explosions actually make sense this time. But I thought this was a difficult, undermine the robots with space guns. These things are an absolute pain. They have a good amount of health, have difficult to dodge attacks when you can't jump, and hurt a ton. So, what is our game plan? Get rid of the wannabe elites and make sure they're always facing the same direction to help them shoot at the same time, otherwise get ready for a very bad time. Take them out however you feel most comfortable with. Once they're down, get ready for Mr. Horcrux. Rising slash over the Voltackles he shoots out, and tries to hit you with missiles going for damage and hang out in the air for as long as possible. After that you have Mila. Great. Run her out while Mila kills things and smack Iron Fist when you feel safe, and take no unnecessary risks. Eventually, after a short endurance match, you can claim victory and move on to the next stage. Thermal Base reminded me of what it's actually like to play a stage. This stage, again, didn't have much of a challenge. I don't know what to say. There's the eel thing that you have to attack, but it's still painfully easy without jumping that I almost forgot it existed. There's this thing, but again, it's painfully easy without jumping, and I wouldn't even consider it a boss as you don't have to kill it to progress. I guess there were these moving platforms, but Rising Slash is still good enough to get over them. Anyways, onto the highlights of the run, the bosses. The Magnemizer Guardian is the first mini-boss we have to face and is a pain as he stands on spikes for most of the fight. You do have two choices of how you want to go about this fight. You can wait until it walks back and forth to slowly whittle it down, or you can go ahead and you can hit it while it's still on the spikes with a high chance of launching yourself into the spikes and or lava. Whichever way you decide to take to Phase 2 is fine, as Phase 2 isn't very difficult. Phase 2 only consists of one attack where it picks up spikes and launches them from outwards in with 100% consistency. When you feel safe, go in and attack. If not, just sit back and wait. With it down, let's work on finishing the stage. Again, nothing really interesting on the main part of the stage. On to the Magnemizer Guardian rematch. It's not too bad of a fight despite the fact that it flies around constantly. My only recommendation for this fight is to hang out on the top platforms. Hit it when it gets near, and after it takes enough damage, it'll use one of its bigger moves. When it goes for one of its big moves, retreat down the ladder to help avoid the attacks. Now on to Pangu Lagoon. Unlike most other stages, the platforming here is actually kind of tricky. Some parts of the stage require you to have a good amount of speed in order to effectively use these tops. However, keeping a good amount of speed without jumping is actually pretty difficult. So if you don't have enough speed to make it to where you need to go, you can always cancel out of Dragon Cyclone and into a Dragon Boost in order to continue on. Another gimmick this stage throws at us is disappearing, reappearing blocks. Luckily, these parts are usually optional and only help to keep us out of combat. Keep in mind, I said for the most part. There's one set of these that you have to do, and it is evil. Not only do you have to travel vertically, but this vine cannot be dragon boosted past for some reason, and once you're on it, the only way off is to drop down or jump off. Not to mention one miss with dragon boost and you could have to do that all over again. But whether it be skill or complete dumb luck, you can thread the needle between the floor and the vine to continue on to the boss. Even after all that, the stage still throws a pretty difficult boss at you, the Hollow Dragon. Without Dragon Cyclone for easy aerial damage and jumping causing a lack of vertical mobility, getting the angles needed for damaging Blue Eyes here is quite difficult. Having a strategy for all of his attacks helps alleviate most of the pain from this fight, however you could still be here a while. Luckily for us, his attacks will always go in the same order: White Lightning, Claw, and Will-O-Wisp. For his White Lightning attack, you can use Super Dragon Boosts and Dragon Boost upward to keep yourself safe. Trust me, I tried running behind his attacks, but sometimes I would get hit and it just felt really inconsistent, and I'm here to just give you the path of least resistance. The Claw is by far the easiest attack to avoid. All you really have to do is hold one direction and you should be fine. The same can be said about Will-O-Wisp, however, if you start from a dead stop, it does seem like it can hit you, so starting out with a little bit of speed might help a bit. Keep out of the way of his attacks and get rid of his orbs one by one, and eventually you'll be able to get through this boss. The next stage is Battle Glacier. This stage starts you out on the Hollow Dragon, and you pretty much have full control with the D-pad attack and special buttons, allowing us to play this part pretty much normally. As for the mini-boss, well, he's probably easier than the boss in Dragon Valley, so if you've gotten this far, you should be good. After that, we go back to normal gameplay, and it isn't really too hard, as this stage is more combat-focused than platforming. And if you're wondering, no, these don't use the jump button to function. With no real platforming challenger in this stage, let's talk about the mini-boss of this stage, Absolution. This boss is completely, absolutely easy. Yeah, you can just Rising Slash while you stand slightly behind it to start racking up damage. And avoiding damage is pretty easy too, as you can Dragon Boost through his rush attack if you don't feel comfortable using the spring. With Absolution down, let's talk about the boss of this stage, Prince Dale. So, you remember when I said Dale was easy? Well, now he's back with a vengeance. And it shows! He pulls no punches during most of the fight, with the most obvious issue being that he's in the air for most of it. And to make things worse, his most used attack is very effective whenever you don't have one of your axes readily available. And trust me, I'll say this again later on, Rising Slash is slow in comparison to the jump, making it even harder to avoid than normal. He will almost always use this attack in sets of 3 before moving on to his other attacks. During the third volley of his attack, whenever the attack is almost at the ground, Dragon Boost past it in order to try to get some damage in. This means that you effectively only have to dodge 2 volleys of his attacks while also getting some damage in. His next attack is a variant of his shotgun laser, Orbital Laser Piss. It's really easy to dodge, just stay away from the yellow and you'll be fine. And his final attack is him spewing purple fire in all directions. You can get some damage in during the wind-up of the attack, but you'll want to retreat right away. Get to the edge of the stage, you can duck under most of the attack. If one comes right at you, just Dragon Boost through it. It's also worth noting that after you deal enough damage, some enemies will spawn off of him. However, these things are actually incredibly weak and have a very high chance of dropping health, making them more beneficial than annoying. After a long fight with Dale, we can move into the final gauntlet of the game, Final Dreadnought. Final Dreadnought is essentially a 4-round stage where you have to fight through some of the toughest stages and bosses in the game. Final Dreadnought 1 brings one major challenge almost immediately. Revan sends so many enemies, especially the rust buckets that hurt. Luckily, there's an invincibility right before the onslaught. I would highly recommend taking this unless you feel lucky. But I sure don't. Now ideally you'd want to ride the invincibility all the way to where we need to go. However, you can afford a few mistakes, so don't worry too much. Really, everything else up till the boss is easy, even the vacuums that suck you down. Let's just say that Dragon Boost is a very useful tool. So let's continue on to the boss. The Magnemizer Guardian is back and it is an absolute pain to deal with jumpless. It's a mock battle, which means that you have no chance to catch your breath. Its first 2 attacks aren't too bad, as you can just run forward to avoid the attacks. The same cannot be said for its next attack, the Pain Train. This attack consists of 3 orbs that Rising Slash can barely get over. The best strategy I was able to come up with is to run about 3/4 to the right of the screen, and be ready to Rising Slash twice, then retreat and try to Dragon Boost it for some damage. Alternatively, you could Rising Slash over the 3rd attack. However, I just really want to get this boss over with. After a while, it can turn into a pogo stick, and for that I don't have much of a strategy. Just pick a god and pray and hope you have some health left intact. When it spins around like a saw blade, Dragon Boost is your friend. Abuse the invincibility it gives you and boost right through it. It could be possible to get over the attack twice. However, you can, the timing is very tight, meaning that if you can't, you're essentially on a timer. Eventually, you'll make it to phase 3, and you'll want to be able to take some damage, otherwise you can't do what I did. Rush up and hit this thing as many times as possible. That's it, that's all I got. Getting past the orbs is so much of a pain, I didn't think it was worth it. So yeah, if you decide to do this, good luck. This is one of the worst bosses jumpless. Final Dreadnought 2 doesn't have any notable parts other than the fact Brevin turns the oxygen off. Because of this, I don't think I need to explain how useful having the water shield is for an unlimited oxygen supply. Play through Final Dreadnought 2 without getting hit and you'll be a-okay. Welcome to the hardest fight in the run, Dynamaxed Lyric. If you ever wanted to know what Destruction in snake form looked like, well here you go. All joking aside, he has 3 attacks and one of them has a variant, and all of them hurt! His first attack is a Plasma Fist that allows him to quickly rush you, and seeing how slow Rising Slash is, it's almost impossible to move out of the way of the attack if he's on screen. He also has a ranged version of Plasma Fists that he can use before hitting you with the physical version, making it very hard to dodge out of the way of. And if you thought Dragon Boost was going to save you, well then you're kind of wrong. Compared to how good it is offensively in this fight, you really want to save it for damage rather than a chance to accidentally throw yourself in a pit like an idiot. But if push comes to shove and it would save you, then go for it. His other moves consist of Flamethrower, no, and Scattershot, a weapon usually used by the Prometheans as a shotgun-like attack, or like we said with Prince Dale, the farther you are from it, the safer you are. However, with this attack he actually has a small blind spot right in front of him, allowing us to attack him for some damage. Just remember that if he has room, he will move back before firing. Now that we've gone over the many ways he can completely eviscerate us, let's talk about how to beat him. Start out the fight by running to the far right and have your volume on. because with this distance we need to listen for him to attack, and Rising Slash over it. After that, Dragon Boost into him and hit him with everything you can. Chances are that his next attack will be Range Plasma Fist, in which case be prepared for some pinpoint dodging. You'll have to Rising Slash over the first attack and the second one with good time to avoid damage. Once you've done that, improvise. Once you stumble your way through the fight enough, he'll enter Rage Mode, where he'll move even faster. Once he speeds up, you'll no longer be able to weave through his Plasma Fist combos, which isn't very good because that's the first thing he tries to do in this mode, and unless you know that ahead of time, you're probably gonna die. However, we can still get past this attack without taking any damage. Rising Slash off the stage, and once he comes in with his physical Plasma Fist, Dragon Boost back on the stage. By doing this, we can avoid all the damage he would have dealt, as well as possibly even get a chance to hit him. After that, again, I don't know, improvise. He could do anything, be ready for anything, and you'll be okay. Eventually, not only will you win this fight, but you will also be an improv master. With this Nahatom-sized nightmare out of the way, let's continue. Final Dreadnought 3 doesn't have much issue in the way of platforming. Just a couple of creative uses with the Dragon Boost and you'll be good. But let's not forget about the boss of this stage, Mutant Mila. She's easy. Most of the time she can't hit the far edges of the arena. However, her shield waves can, and most of the time you can go to the far edges of the arena and duck to avoid them. Her other attack that can hit the edges of the stage is an inconsistent orb attack that is used after she takes a certain amount of damage. You might be able to attack the orb without taking damage, but it's such a little problem that I didn't even realize it was an attack until afterwards. As for attacking, you can just charge up Dragon Boost where she has a hard time hitting you, and Dragon Boost her when you have the chance. While this can certainly be a much slower fight compared to the Solid Snake fight, it's a much easier win. Final Dreadnought 4, the final part of the game. As a stage, it isn't too hard. Very few enemies that are very easy to defeat. They bring back disappearing, reappearing blocks, but they aren't even half as bad as the ones in Pangu Lagoon, so it's not too bad. The hardest platforming part of the stage is a giant fuck you laser near the end of the stage. You have to ascend vertically with Rising Slash, and like I said before, it's slow. However, it's still fast enough to squeeze by the laser and make it to the final boss in the game, Arctivus Brevin. A 3-phase boss fight that luckily has checkpoints in between each phase, otherwise I don't want to know what my mental state would be like. Phase 1 is pretty much just a rematch against the ship we fought back in Battle Glacier. The only thing new about this is the fact that he now has rockets. Use whatever your favorite strategy is for avoiding them other than jumping, and Phase 1 is a piece of cake. Phase 2 is a bit of an endurance match, at least in terms of the bosses in this game. With his weak point being the head, it is very hard for you to get the damage you need in order to win the fight. His attacks consist of a regular shot that he typically fires 3 times in succession, 3 times while flying in the air. Because of course he does. This attack can be quite hard to dodge as you can end up trapping yourself in between shots, causing you to take damage. Though, with good enough timing, you can hit the shots out of the air without taking damage. His next attack is a dash that leaves a trail of fire. The best strategy I found for this attack is to walk up a wall to about head height, avoiding the attack while still giving you a good position to hit him with Dragon Boost. He also has a bounce attack that I still can't dodge. His last attack is yet another shotgun-like attack with quite a bit of wind-up. The best way I found to fight him is to avoid his shots and his bounces. There's not a lot you can do during this, so just run and avoid it. If he goes for a dash, it should be slow enough for you to walk up a wall and get into position to Dragon Boost him. His scattershot-like attack, like I said, has quite a bit of wind-up, which gives you enough time to Rising Slash next to him and Dragon Boost downwards. Dragon Boost never bounces off the floor, allowing you to use it downwards and stay safe from the attack. Overall, play it safe, don't get hit, and eventually you can move on to the final phase of this fight. In Phase 3, Brevin fights you one-on-one, or in this case, Tyrant versus Tyrant. This fight is tough, but it's also the most fun one in the run. Brevin will always start this phase out with a large slash that does a ton of damage, so be prepared to Rising Slash over it as it's just fast enough to get over the attack. Though if you're a bit off, you might be okay as we have one other defensive option in this fight. You see, if you hit Brevin's moves with some of your moves, you'll hear clashing metal but no damage will be dealt to anyone unless that move lasts for a longer amount of time. Rising Slash just so happens to be one of these moves, along with a Grounded Dragon Cyclone. Remember, I only banned the aerial version. The grounded one is fair game. And if you want to argue about it, well, it doesn't use the jump button, so there. However, other than clashing, it also lasts long enough to hit Brevin after his slash, making it for a good offense and defensive tool. His other attacks consist of a Deathly Hollows pattern, which has an opening at the end, a grab that deals no damage but after thrown will set you to your max speed, and explosive mines that cause shockwave damage and is quite hard to dodge jumpless. Like the big boss fight, this requires a lot of improvising. The most important thing to remember is to Rising Slash right at the start, especially on hard. If he hits you, you'll be down to one pedal and you'll have to play almost flawlessly. And the other piece of advice is the best way to deal damage is to Dragon Boost into him after he's landing from his triangle attack. You're able to rack up a good amount of damage on him during the windup, and there's a high chance that he'll grab you, ending the Dragon Boost early, keeping your defensive options open later on. If you're out of Dragon Boost, you can Rising Slash. It won't deal nearly as much damage, but it's still better than nothing for a free hit. Other than that, this entire fight is left up only to your skill. Hey guys, thanks so much for watching my video. I hope you enjoyed. Hopefully it won't take as long for me to get videos out in the future. I was thinking about doing either a Pokemon White gift block or maybe another Shedinja only run. But other than that, thanks for watching, and I have some bloopers and outtakes if you want to watch those. Play through the main stage or final destination. I've been labeling it FD for Final Dread, so I called it Final Destination. I was wondering how long it'd take for me to do that. God damn it. Other than that, just hope, pray, and improvise. This fight is... there's no point in hope and pray, because this is a skill-based fight. Well, shit. On now to Pangu Lagoon. And like the previous stages, this isn't too bad. Oh, they're disappearing, reappearing blocks. Well, that's fine. With branching paths, it should surely be possible to avoid the... Oh. Nope, you got a platform on this with a soft time limit with Rising Slash? Well, that's fine. We're up here and... What?! You grab onto this with Dragon Boost? Why?